Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing. He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Give me a break.
The Nation, Waldorf Nation. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. It's Wednesday, midweek, hump day, whatever you want to call it. It's a day. And so it is a day full of news. And we have news. We're going to talk about it. First, Donald Trump having some hard times finding a lawyer. Fun. We've got that. We have Liz Cheney losing. Who's the replacement? Well, I'm going to get into the details. We have, of course, Chuds threatening children's hospitals, of course. Big surprise. We have other abortion, post-Roe, I should say, horror stories. Plenty of that stuff to get through. So, again, we've got a lot of stuff here. We're going to talk about it. Why don't we dive into that? But before we do, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Very helps us out very much. Yeah, let's do it. Let's get right to it today. All right. Former President Donald Trump continues to get rejected by potential defense lawyers. Fun times. Now, according to the Washington Post, Trump and his aides had spent the last 8 days since the FBI had searched his Florida home, trying to assemble a team of respected defense lawyers. Call it like, I don't know, the Avengers team of lawyers. Avengers assemble! We must avenge the orderly search of Mar-a-Lago for documents that I stole and didn't return when I was asked. Okay, but anyway. I know, it's maybe not an Avengers type of super lawyer group. But okay, anyway. Now, he's getting rejected. In fact, according to a prominent Republican lawyer, quote, everyone is saying no. Interesting. In fact, look, some of the lawyers, or I should say a lot of the lawyers the Washington Post had talked to, and that Trump, his team had reached out to, were basically saying,
No.
No, not interested. Sorry. Not going to do it. I've got some quotes here. I have some quotes, and they're fun. So why don't we get to that? But I guess before that, I just want to say, according to the same prominent Republican lawyer, he had spoken on the condition of anonymity to discuss confidential conversations, in case you're wondering where that came from. Now, of course, you might be wondering, why? Why? Gee, I wonder why. Could it be the fact that it's difficult to defend someone who stole top secret documents from the White House when he was told not to, and then put them in his own house, and then refused several times to return them after having his lawyer sign for them and saying, oh, yeah, no, I absolutely did. Yeah, no, he returned them. Of course he returned them. Yes. And then it took a confidential source inside of the White House, an FBI informant, to say, actually, no, he did not return those things. Weird. I wonder why no lawyers want to represent him. Very strange. Very strange. Now, one of the lawyers who did come on the record is John Sale, a prominent Florida defense attorney who had worked on the Watergate prosecution team. How's that for irony? Now, he said, look, I turned down representing Trump because I just didn't have the time. Sorry, man, this is a full-time job, let me tell you what. Maybe not just full-time job, but overtime. I ain't got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for this, to defend Donald Trump. No, I actually don't believe that. I think there's more to it. But here's what he said. I'll give him the full quote. You have to evaluate whether you want to take it. It's not like a DUI. It's representing the former president of the United States, and maybe the next one. In what's one of the highest visibility cases ever. And in that, Sale continued by saying, the Trump team needs a first-rate, highly experienced federal criminal practitioner. Are you saying that you are not? He's not saying he's not one of those highly experienced federal criminal practitioners. He's just saying, oh, golly gee, I just ain't got the time, to do this incredibly high-profile case. Not buying it. Not buying it all. Now, remember, of course, if for a lawyer, and it doesn't matter if you win or lose for a lawyer. I mean, it does in some respects, but just the opportunity to defend a former president of the United States would be a huge win for them. I mean, again, win or lose, your profile is instantly heightened. Instantly. And look, it doesn't even, I think in most cases, or a lot of cases, it wouldn't matter as much if you lose, as long as you put up the best defense that you can with the facts that you have. You know what I'm saying? And so, your ability to try to put up a good defense and do everything you can, that performance is going to matter. But some cases are just not winnable. And in the case of this former president, even if it's not winnable, you would still think, okay, huge opportunity to at least get my name out. I'm going to throw my name in my hat in the ring, and I'm going to get in there and I'm going to give it my all. And even if it's an unwinnable case, well, people will know who I am. They'll know who I am. Okay. But still, not good. When it comes to Trump, there's a lot of reasons why lawyers are just not interested. Now, for one, he doesn't pay anybody. He doesn't pay people. I mean, I don't even know if Rudy Giuliani got paid. Then you also have him just not listening to legal advice, contradicting his own legal team, and asking members of that same legal team to either do illegal or plain old ethically bad things. Just ask Michael Cohen. And again, we do have more examples. For one lawyer told a story from early in Trump's presidency of his legal team urging him against tweeting about the Mueller probe, only to find out that he had tweeted about it before they got to the end of the West Wing driveway. Okay, very, very important, Donald. Okay, don't tweet about this. Very, very important that you do not tweet about this. I mean, seriously, oh my God, he's already tweeted. I'm not even done. I'm not even done telling him that he shouldn't tweet, and he already tweeted. Oh God, what have we done? Several other people said that Trump was nearly impossible to represent and that it would be unclear if they would ever get paid. Other lawyers may reasonably feel as though the public would conflate Mr. Trump's policy aims and positions with lawyers. In that way, many lawyers may be disinclined to expose themselves to the public opprobrium, that would follow that sort of representation. Now, does anybody blame any of these lawyers for that? No, not at all. Of course not. That said, of course, he does have orbiters. Donald Trump has many, many orbiters. Tremendous orbiters, the best orbiters. And they are jumping at the chance to defend him. In fact, people familiar with the search for legal help said the effort now includes Susie Wiles, a close advisor to Trump, and attorney Christina Bobb, who was present at Mar-a-Lago during the search and even signed for the list of documents taken. Former campaign advisor Boris Epstein is also taking a prominent role. Oh, good. And former White House aide Kash Patel is advising informally. Patel is also raising money for what he calls legal offense fund by selling merch such as tank tops and beanies emblazoned with the logo K money sign H, for cash. Crack legal team. But there's more. Bob, who was also previously a host on the far-right pro-Trump television network One American News. Yes. Bob's prior legal experience at the federal level consists mainly of a handful of trademark infringement cases on behalf of CrossFit during a stint at a San Diego law firm. Fun. Sounds like a lot of experience, but wait. There's more. Trump's other lawyer currently based in Florida is Lindsay Halligan, whose practice, according to a professional biography, focused on insurance claims at residential and commercial properties. Sounds great. She was admitted to the Florida bar under 2014. However, a search of federal court records found absolutely no filings under her name. A lot of experience there. Wow. Trump is also being represented in the records dispute by Alina Habba, who leads a 3-attorney firm with an office near Trump's golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey. Her professional experience includes serving as general counsel to a parking garage company. Yes, parking garage company. Well done. Wow. Look at this. This is a cavalcade of losers and coattail riders. That's what that is. Wonderful. Great. A former OAN host, 2 people with no experience in federal cases. Fantastic. Now, there are a couple of experienced lawyers, for sure, but this is far from a crack legal team and not what you would expect to represent a former president of the United States. In fact, one Trump confidant said of the president's lack of high-profile white-collar defense lawyer said this is not good.
Oh, no!
Not good. In fact, that same person says, something big is going to pop. Somebody needs to be in charge. Well, that's very unlikely. I mean, again, all of this, look, the entire situation, to be honest, is incredibly unlikely. How did we find ourselves in here? If somebody said that 10 years ago that a dum-dum like Donald Trump would rise to a position of president of the United States, I think everybody would laugh. Because it's so outrageous and clowny. And this is after living 8 years of George W. Bush. We thought that guy was the dumbest man alive. No. It's insane. But now for these lawyers who were representative, there was another lawyer who wasn't part of the team, said this about them, quote, you get these guys who just live to be around him, and mistakes get made. These guys just want to make him happy. Look, I also think that they want to make money. Of course they do. They want to make money. They want to get cred on the right wing so that the right wing continues to hire them. Because that's pretty much the only work they're going to be able to find. Maybe they'll, get lucky and represent a corporation or something. I don't know. But certainly they think that they probably believe that this is the only way that they're actually going to be able to make money. I don't think they're worried about tainting their image because honestly, the image of a lot of these people has already been tainted. Now, if I were them, I would worry about it though. Why? Why do I say that? Well, because look, we've seen this. It doesn't matter how loyal you are. Donald Trump is going to throw you under the bus if he needs to. It's true. He's doing it to Mark Meadows. He already did it when it came to his own personal lawyer and fixer Michael Cohen. And it looks like he might do it to Giuliani. And yet, for some reason, in that group, everybody wants to believe, oh, no. Sure, he'll go after those people, but he'll never throw me under the bus. And they'll continue thinking that until they see the tires coming for their face. Look, finally, it's a very serious issue. We're talking about violating the Espionage Act. I mean, that's very, very serious. This is not Hillary's emails, okay? This is taking and then lying about returning nuclear, among other different kinds of classified documents. And who knows if they find evidence or have evidence that he was trying to sell any of those secrets. Well, that could be even worse for him and make the case even more difficult to defend him from these lawyers. And again, as I said before, who knows what other person he's going to try to blame for this. So, yeah, I would be very, very worried if I were representing Donald Trump. Okay. Let's move on. Let's go to Liz Cheney. Herman Cain got run over by Trump's proverbial bus. Fair. Okay. All right. Republican nominee Harriet Hageman believes that coal is the real clean energy. Ah, yes. Now, the replacement for Representative Liz Cheney, who had just lost her primary, said this at a luncheon last week for the Chamber of Commerce of Rock Springs. After promising to defend the industry, she told their representatives that coal is both an affordable, clean, and acceptable resource that we should all be using. Ah, yes, we should all be using coal because, coal, well known for being very, very clean.
Clean coal, meaning they're taking out coal, they're going to clean it.
See, you take the coal out, you clean it, you just brush it down. Okay, you take a scrub brush. Okay, it's got to have the bristles on it. Okay, and you take the brush and you scrub the coal. Okay, you scrub it and you scrub it and you scrub it until there's nothing left, and that's how it's clean. And then you don't burn it. And that's the only way. That's the only way that it can be clean coal. No, it's ridiculous. And by the way, she ignores how the planet is on fire and basically wants to continue burning the coal. Great. Fantastic. Now, look, Hageman, again, huge defender of not just coal, but other fossil fuels, oil and natural gas, and has actually spent most of her career fighting against clean air and clean water. Now, again, she is a ghoul, okay? And she just won the Republican primary against Liz Cheney. Now, here's the thing about Liz Cheney. Substantively, I believe that there's going to be very little, if any, policy changes if she wins her general election, which she's, of course, very likely to do, Hagman. Okay, so before I get into that, though, and more of my personal opinion about what happened with Liz Cheney, I want to get into more information about Hagman and what to expect. So now Hagman has been described as the anti-conservation zealot. Given her years as a trial lawyer, fighting environmentalists in court, and her expressed disdain for the very idea of protected federal lands. The oil and gas industry was among the corporate interests that helped her fund her campaign against Cheney, who was also a vocal supporter of fossil fuel development. For 3 decades, Hagman had been sparring with environmentalists, suing federal agencies over land use decisions, and advocating for transferring control of federal lands to states, according to HuffPost's Chris D'Angelo. It's a record of anti-conservation, anti-government zealotry that once earned her the nickname Wicked Witch of the West among environmentalists, a title that she had embraced. Come next year, D'Angelo warned Hagman could be Wyoming's new at-large congresswoman, and if she has it her way, a member of the House Committee with jurisdiction over energy development, public lands, and wildlife. Fantastic. In a December appearance on former White House Chief Strategist Steve Bannon's podcast, Hagman boasted this, quote, "I've taken on the EPA, I've taken on the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, oh wow, great, and I've taken on the USDA. Ah, yes, I have taken on the people who are trying to make your food safe, your air breathable, and your water non-toxic. Look at me. Isn't that such a great record?" Wow. Hagman is also currently listed as a senior litigation attorney in the website The New Civil Liberties Alliance, a right-wing legal group that opposes any climate regulations. As the New York Times notes, her most far-reaching case as a trial lawyer was a successful challenge of Clinton-era federal regulations to protect millions of acres of national forests from road building, mining, and other development. And so, knowing this, or probably not knowing this, or not caring about this, the Chuds rejoiced and they voted for her en masse. Liz Cheney got blown out. Now, that's not to say that Liz Cheney is any better on those issues. No, Liz Cheney voted 93% of the time with Trump. So understand that from a policy perspective, we're not really getting anything that's much different in Wyoming. Look, let me give you a couple of examples of Cheney. She had co-sponsored a bill last year to bring back something called the Coal Council. So to try to continue to encourage, I guess, the Biden administration to use coal, to rely on coal, and then introduced legislation to end the suspension of oil and gas leases, and of course went after the Green New Deal. So any liberal that is out there that is saying, "Oh, Liz Cheney, the loss is immense. We have lost a real champion here." A champion for what? She's literally just doing the very basics of her job, and that was to try to prevent a takeover by Donald Trump of the presidency, to try to stop him from stealing an election. Again, she is 100%, and I'm talking about Liz Cheney, for fossil fuels. Very, very little policy distinctions between the two. But of course, the real reason that she lost in Wyoming is because she didn't support God Emperor Trump. And that's it. His entire, plan to spread the big lie about, mass voter fraud, which didn't exist, and to try to send fake electors, all that stuff. All of his crying, essentially, for the last 2 years, losing to Joe Biden, if you don't support Trump, if you don't support those lies as a Republican, you get voted out. Now, that is, of course, democracy, and I actually, unlike Trump supporters, do believe in democracy, but it still can lead to ugly results. Okay? Again, she lost because she didn't support him, and in a very rare principled stance, she did not bend the knee to Trump. Now, Hagman, of course, did. So here's the difference, right? So Hagman, back in 2016, was a Liz Cheney ally and called Trump, quote, someone who was racist and xenophobic, and even attempted to thwart his nomination during that year's Republican National Convention. Hagman now disowns the previous statements on Trump, saying, oh, I was led astray by the lies the Democrats and Liz Cheney's friends in the media were telling at the time, and then said on the campaign trail, quote, absolutely the election was rigged. What happened in 2020 was a travesty. Now, again, I give you all this context because I want to point out the fact that this primary was not about the issues. When it came down to policy, again, Hagman and Cheney were roughly about the same. And Liz Cheney is about a ghoul in 100 different ways. But she did her job. She did her job as a congresswoman to actually try to hold a person of power accountable. Now, here's the thing, though. It's a low bar. But in our context today, that bar, as low as it is, very few Republicans are ever going to clear that bar. And that's sad. That is incredibly sad. So again, overall, my personal opinion is this. I don't feel bad for Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney's going to be fine. Okay? Liz Cheney's going to be fine. Wyoming, their politics is basically going to be absolutely the same. There's going to be very little change. Okay? If any change at all. And I do think that this is also a foregone conclusion. Because we know now that and we've known for quite some time, that the Republican Party isn't a political party anymore. It's basically a fan club. It's a Trump fan club. It's the party of Trump. And what I hope is that we can extract a lesson from this loss. Democrats, understand. And I'm talking to elected Democrats who seem to think that, no, you don't understand. The fever's going to break. The Republican Party will, come back to sanity. Donald Trump will lose his grip on the party. And finally, we can get back to having normal Republicans. No, there is no such thing. There is no such thing. And by the way, we don't need a strong Republican Party headed up by people like Liz Cheney, because as I pointed out before, in her policy positions, voted 93% with Trump on horrific policy positions. The kind of policies that will exacerbate climate change, which is an existential threat, or helps giant corporations, giving them massive tax cuts, going against LGBTQ people, all that stuff. That's what the Republican Party policy-wise stands for. And so we don't need a strong Republican Party. And we don't need that strong Republican Party headed up with people like Liz Cheney. We don't. We don't need Trump-style extremists, and we don't need establishment Republicans. What we need, in reality, is a strong left. We need a strong progressive left to counter the right wing on more than just Trump. We actually have to, talk about actual policies like healthcare, environmental justice, racial justice, education, higher wages for working people. See, look, seeing Cheney be replaced by someone who's almost exactly the same, except for a slavish devotion to Donald Trump, is not a shock to me. This is not surprising. And it doesn't really change a whole lot of things. All it really does is prove, assuming, that they're actually willing to see this. It just cements that the modern Republican Party is the cult of Trump and needs to be absolutely dismantled. The entire thing. Get rid of it. The country would be better off without this Republican Party. All right. This is the Republican Party. This is who they are. They are monsters, period. This is Tyler Hagner. True. I'd argue we don't need a Republican Party at all. We need a strong left. Also agree. All right. Chuck Langler says, oh, I just missed that. Where is it? Let me go back to that comment. Liz is a monster with a different strategy. Her positions are the same as MAGA's generally, and my bet that she has the presidency in her sights. Chuck, you are 100% correct. In fact, she's already talking about running for president. And of course, she's doing the coy thing. Oh, I'm looking into it. No answers on that yet. No, she's going to run. Already media's talking about it. I would be very surprised if she didn't use this as a springboard to get into into higher office. Yikes. Okay. Let's go to Marjorie Greene. Oh boy. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene believes that God is a nationalist.
Different generation, and they believe in this idea of globalism, World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, and they've been told that America's bad. And I love what Dennis Prager says. America's faults are universal, but our successes are unique.
Yes.
And this is, of the 4% of the world's population, more patents, Nobel Peace Prize winners, more symphonies, more accumulation of wealth, because we've had freedom.
Yeah.
And I think people have forgotten how great America is, and you don't have to be ashamed. God is not a globalist, he's a nationalist.
That's right.
Yeah. Not a globalist. He's a nationalist. Brainworms. Total brainworms. You're telling me, and by the way, that's Pastor Rob McCoy. Okay. Telling basically everybody that the supposed creator of the entire vast, incomprehensible universe that is filled with trillions of stars and planets and likely an abundance of life, even though we haven't found any yet, picked out one tiny, insignificant pale blue dot and said, you know what? Fuck everything else that I've made in entire creation. I'm an American. I'm rooting for America. What? None of that makes any sense at all. But then again, these are the same people that think that God disapprovingly watches you when you touch yourself. Don't masturbate. Don't do it. I'm watching you. Watching you. No, it's cuckoo. It's cuckoo, okay? No. By the way, I don't know why, but I have the desire to play Alice Jones sound clips.
I want to go to space.
Okay, but anyway, look, logic, not their strong suit. Okay, I get it. Now, something else he said. Again, they believe in globalism. Oh, that America's bad. First of all, two different things. Okay, and by the way, total straw man. I actually tend to believe that all countries are bad in some respects, but are also good in other respects. I know it's a nuanced opinion, right? Now, there's, of course, some countries that do more good than bad, or that have done more good than others. But in America, look, in the United States, we have done good things and we have done bad things, okay? Some bad things, slavery, Jim Crow, native genocide, imprisoning Asian Americans during the Second World War. You can go on and on. Now, we also do terrible things like not guaranteeing health care to our citizens while housing around, about 20% of the world's prison population? Now, he talked about freedom, right? Freedom. We have freedom in America, except that 20% of our population is locked up in prison right now. Oh, weird. Freedom. Now, he also mentioned the concentration of wealth. Among many other things that he rattled off, but I wanted to talk about that because I don't really think that's a good example. Most of the wealth is concentrated at the very tippy top of the economic spectrum in this country. Millionaires, billionaires. They have so much of the wealth, and they have taken it from the rest of us. That said, none of that has to do with their God or any God or flying spaghetti monster or anything like that. Okay? No, that's human affairs. To say that God, oh no, God, out of everything, God just pointed out America as it is, which, by the way, was not created at the beginning of the universe or whatever, but now said, that's it. No, that's my horse. America. What? But understand, by the way, that there's, without the, or just, I should say, discounting the ridiculous stuff, because there's plenty in it, right? No, what this is that it's Christian nationalism. And this is very, very concerning. You've already had Green coming out and saying, yeah, oh yeah, I'm a Christian nationalist. Everybody, we should all be Christian nationalists. No. There's nothing wrong with being a patriot, but when it comes to nationalism is essentially ignoring any of the faults in the country and just having a weirdo, I guess, devotion to the country. That's weird. Patriotism is actually seeing the faults in your country and saying, you know what? I see the good things, I see the bad things. I want to fix the bad things. I want to make them better. And I want to make this country better. Like, I love where I live. That's why I want to improve it. That's not what nationalism is. And nationalism has been used to go down some very dark roads in the past in other countries. But understand that people like Marjorie Greene, it's not that they don't know this history. Oh, they absolutely do know this history. Even people like dum-dums like Marjorie Greene who don't open a book, especially the Bible, they don't care. They want to go down that road anyway, because that road for them leads to power. Okay. Let's move on. The hate account Libs of TikTok is at it again, spreading a lie that had sent a flood of violent death threats to doctors and staff at a children's hospital. Yes, a children's hospital. Vice reports that the staff at Boston Children's Hospital has been facing violent threats and harassment since Libs of TikTok put out a false claim that, let me read that, okay? The account, run by Brooklyn real estate agent Shia Rychik, tweeted on August 11th that Boston Children's Hospital is offering gender-affirming hysterectomies for young girls. That's not true. That's a lie. It's not true. No, seriously, fact checkers, they have looked into this. It's not true. In order for a hysterectomy to be performed as part of gender-affirming care, Boston Children's Hospital requires a patient to be capable of consenting for themselves. In fact, Boston Children's does not, according to a statement, and will not perform a hysterectomy as part of gender-affirming care on a patient under the age of 18. So you have to be a legal adult in order to get this surgery. So that's it. Now, and by the way, this is, it's so blatant how easily they lie. They lie as easily as they breathe. Do you understand? Does anybody understand how difficult it is for a healthy young woman in this country to get a hysterectomy? Look, there's a lot of anecdotes out there where women, for example, who are dealing with endometriosis, very painful condition, said, I want to get that procedure. And were denied by doctors because, yeah, but, someday you might want kids. Maybe. Where the woman is, or person, with a uterus is sitting there saying, no, you don't understand. I am in tremendous pain. I want to get rid of this pain. I don't want kids. And they said, yeah, but maybe you will one day. One day. So we're not going to give you that procedure that you require. Oh, great. Again, very difficult, very difficult. Now, there's also studies, by the way, cited by people, and this is a defense of the doctors on their part. They cite studies that find that the rate of women's post-sterilization regret is about 20.3% of those 30 or younger, and about 5.9% of those over 30. So 1 in 5 women under the age of 30 may regret it down the line. Okay, and people do things that they regret all the time. That's why we have choices, and we should be allowed to make choices. I mean, that's it. I mean, we should have choices. It's called freedom. Okay, you shouldn't have to go and if you're an adult and you're of sound mind and you say, look, I want to get this procedure done. I'm in terrible pain, or I just don't want children, and this is the best way that I know of to definitely prevent myself from having kids. You shouldn't have to get approval from a doctor that says, but wait, you might want kids someday. No, that's my choice. That's my choice. It's my body. And yes, I do want this procedure. But so understand, right? Understand that this excuse is being used by doctors to refuse to do those procedures. And as well, of course, the societal pressure for women to have children in this day and age. And I give you this context because if it's that difficult and socially unacceptable for adult women to go and get that procedure, then what makes you think that doctors at Boston's Children's Hospital are giving these out willy-frickin-nilly? What makes you think that? It doesn't make any sense. Not at all. But understand, sense isn't something that a lot of these people on the far right use. Remember, all they have is the anger and the fear. And I'm not even saying that they're stupid. No, I'm saying that when you are as a human being, when you are, constantly subjected to things that will make you either angry or scared, your logic and higher thinking abilities, they go out the window. Gone. And so understand this is a very effective, and it's why it's a very effective tool in politics, especially in right-wing politics, where they are not trying to sell you on any policy positions at all. So now, as a result of these lies, the staff had been receiving tons and tons of abuse. In fact, this is according to the hospital statement posted to Twitter. In response to commentary last week, critical of our gender multi-specialty service GEMS program, Boston Children's Hospital has been the target of large volume of hostile internet activity. Phone calls and harassing emails, including threats of violence toward our clinicians and staff. Now, the hospital did not specify where the threats were coming from, but Vice looked into it. And you're not going to be surprised that a lot of these threats, the majority of them, actually came from MAGA. Ah, yes, of course. So look, and this is how it works, okay? Accounts like Rychicks, Libs of TikTok, they'll either post a video that misrepresents someone or post cringe, because there is cringe, okay? And they'll point at those things and they'll say, oh, see, that's the entire left. That's the way they think. Now, in this case, they made something up. But the way the right-wing media ecosphere works is that Libs of TikTok will dig up something, and then automatically a slew of right-wing influencers and media personalities will pick up on it. Why? Because they're not talking about policy issues. Okay? In fact, here's some examples. Stephen Miller, former Trump administration official, tweeted this in response to Rychick. Quote, "This is monstrous. How does anyone involved in this still have a medical license?" Again, he's commenting on what's literally fake news. The reason that they still have their medical license is because they weren't actually doing this, and that it's a lie. Others who boosted a false claim included Daily Wire's Matt Walsh, of course. Other conservative websites like the Post-Millennial, Gateway Pundit, and Daily Caller. I want to give you some comments here that they had received as well. And let me warn you, a bit disturbing, okay? One comment reads, long past time to start executing these doctors. Oh, that seems pretty clear. There's more. One Telegram user wrote this: demons like this do not deserve to breathe. Crimes against humanity equals death. Interesting take on that. And on both Reddit / The Donald, as well as Telegram, doctors and hospital staff were referred to as pedophiles and groomers. And another wrote, these people are psychopaths and should be locked up. Locked up. Now, understand, this is our entire playbook. Rychik has figured out the magic of the right-wing grift. And really, there's no huge, I guess, thought process to it. No big strategy. All you have to do is just lie. You just make things up. They'll believe anything, those idiots in the right. I mean, come on, they'll believe anything. Because, if you have Ben Shapiro saying it, then they'll believe it. Or they have Matt Walsh saying it, then they'll believe it. Oh, of course. So all you have to do is lie, smear people, post cringy videos, and then when you're all done, sit back and profit. Let the views and the likes and the shares, retweets, let it roll in, as well as the donations. It doesn't matter if people get hurt or killed. Remember, the right wing has already been killing doctors and bombing abortion clinics for decades. So we know they have a penchant for violence. And this is just days after somebody attempted to break into the FBI headquarters in Cincinnati and had a shootout with cops. And now they're going after children's hospitals who've done nothing wrong. When will these domestic terrorists be stopped? I mean, that's my question, right? Probably after it's too late and innocent people are killed as a result of lies that someone else has profited off of. And that's what they do. And again, the right wing, the reason this spreads is because the right wing lives in an alternative reality. And you can blame the media a lot for that. And again, people don't trust the media anymore. People don't trust news, and certainly, for some good reasons. But there's no trust in institutions anymore. And then they decide to trust complete and total clowns and grifters who make money off spreading complete and total fabrications. And look, since they do live in this alternative reality, they are constantly primed towards threats and violence because, again, the primary tools are anger and hatred. And disgust, I suppose. These accounts that spread this, fake information, they're a danger to society. They really, really are. Now, unlike them, though, I don't want anybody killed. No, I want regular people to come back into reality. I want them to stop listening to the grifters, the charlatans, the hate peddlers, and those who don't care about fellow human beings. I want them to come back to reality. Join the rest of us in the real world, where there are legitimate differences that we can discuss. Marginal tax rates, instead of having to discuss whether or not certain politician is eating fetuses or sucking the blood of children. I mean, we have gone into an insane world. We're not in Kansas anymore, everybody. We're surrounded by grifters who put their own fame and profit above truth and honesty. And we are now stuck in the hell world of that creation. It is absolutely frightening. All right, there's more. In what is another horror story of post-Roe America, a woman in Louisiana is being forced to choose between carrying a fetus that will not survive or traveling throughout several states to get a legal abortion. So now this is Nancy Davis, a woman who lives in Louisiana, who is 13 weeks pregnant, but the fetus, unfortunately, has a rare condition called acrania. Basically, the fetus lacks a skull and the top of its head. In her last ultrasound, Ms. Davis was told that the fetus was not going to survive. It is non-viable. So now she has a choice. Does she carry and deliver a child that's not going to survive, or go out of her way, spend a lot of money and resources and time traveling to Florida to get an abortion? And that is, of course, if she actually can make it there in time, as Governor Ron DeSantis just signed a 15-week abortion ban. So now look, I mentioned Louisiana, right? Louisiana is one of the most poorest states in the country. Poorest states. So I don't know if she has the resources to be able to travel that far. And of course, to endure the waiting period. So of course you have to go not only travel expenses, but hotel rooms, food, eating, things like that. And not to mention the cost of the actual abortion. That's what she's forced to do, to make that choice. Now, Davis spoke to local news station WAFB9 on Monday. And, I'm not going to, okay. This quote is powerful, okay? She said this: "It's hard knowing that I'm carrying it to bury it." I can imagine that this was probably a wanted child. And to find out that there is this rare condition that is going to make that child die pretty much after it is born is horrifying. And yet she is supposed to make this choice. Do I carry it for the full term, knowing that this thing that's inside of me is not going to survive? Or, again, having to spend all this resources to go and get an abortion somewhere else. Now, her state, as I mentioned, Louisiana, had banned abortion following the end of Roe, as many other states did. And while Louisiana's ban does include an exception for some fetal conditions, acrania isn't one of them. It just it slipped the cracks. Now, look, this isn't pro-life. Obviously, this ban, not about being pro-life. It's not about trying to save the fetus. It can't be saved. There's no skull. That's horrifying. What they're doing in Louisiana is prolonging the misery for this pregnant person for literally no reason at all. But understand, these abortion bans, that's the point. The cruelty and the misery is the point. And I give you an example here of a case before Davis. And I talked about this before. One Louisiana doctor testified in an affidavit challenging that very same ban, that her patient was forced to endure a painful hours-long labor and delivery of a non-viable fetus, despite her wishes and best medical advice. The doctor, Valerie Williams, said her patient was, quote, screaming not from pain, but from the emotional trauma she was experiencing. It took hours for the woman's placenta to deliver, causing her to hemorrhage about 1 liter of blood, which placed her own life in danger. A simple abortion procedure would have lasted 15 minutes. So, look, that's what's going on in these states. She claimed that this was the first time in my 15-year career that I could not give the patient the care that they needed. And you know why? It's because of big government. I thought conservatives were supposed to hate big government. No, they love it. They love it in these cases. And I'm talking about Republican politicians that vote in favor of these bans despite not knowing what they're talking about at all. Look, the state threatens doctors and abortion providers who violate this ban with about 10 to 15 years in prison. Louisiana doctors have talked to Jezebel and said the ban had forced them to fear that they could go to prison for just handling a miscarriage, as they have always had. The patient, as I said, could have died. And in Davis's case, she is still literally, being forced to carry a fetus that's missing most of its head. There's no pro-life in this. There's no life to protect here. It's already gone. But understand that, this is why politicians absolutely have no business in dictating these kinds of laws. They have no idea what they're doing, no idea what they're talking about, or maybe if they do, they don't care. They don't care about this life. And in fact, in passing these laws that are very murky, well, they're actually putting more pregnant people in danger. Doctors have previously pointed out, according to the article, that exceptions for threats to the pregnant person's life are too ambiguous to actually help pregnant people. How close to death must a patient be? An attorney for Louisiana's abortion providers asked last month. Doctors are unsure what counts as a medically futile pregnancy. Further, in some countries, being forced to carry a dead fetus has resulted in pregnant people developing fatal infections when doctors are too afraid of criminal charges to help. Well, that's what's going on. And even before the end of Roe, it's already been talked about and widely known that the U.S. already has the lead in maternal mortality. But we're number one, particularly among, of course, people of color. No, the right wing in this country, right wing politicians have had plenty of chances to be pro-life, to actually, show that they care about American families. They could have done that by supporting efforts to get universal health care, something that their own supporters even support. And how about anti-poverty programs that are effective at helping children, keeping children fed, family planning services that prevent unwanted pregnancies, and again, just food for children overall. But of course, in every single circumstance, they choose not to, because it's not about being pro-family. It's not about being pro-life. At the end of the day, it's always about control, and it always has been. Okay. One more related story, by the way. All right. A Florida court believes that a 16-year-old is not mature enough to get an abortion, but mature enough to have a baby. Now, look, this is a ruling earlier this week. It was on Monday by Escambia County Circuit Judge Jennifer J. Fredrowicz. Sorry, I cannot say that name. She had recently rejected an unidentified teen's request for permission to get an abortion, to bypass the parental notice and consent requirements under Florida's law. Now, remember, right now, Florida still allows abortion, but it has a ban after 15 weeks. But, of course, you have to be an adult. Now, this girl is not an adult. She is a minor. But there are some extenuating circumstances here that she is asked the judges to look at. Unfortunately, the judge said, no. On Monday, 3-panel judge from the state's First District Court of Appeals also upheld that decision, saying, and by the way, this is from an article, Judges Harvey J. and Rachel Nordby, joined in part by Judge Scott McCarr, had affirmed the decision of trial court, which they said found that the teen had not established by clear and convincing evidence that she was sufficiently mature to decide whether to terminate her pregnancy. Not mature enough. Now, how can you quantify maturity? Look, I've seen people my age act not at all mature, show very, very little maturity. And I've seen younger people express a ton of maturity. So I'm not really sure how you can exactly quantify this. And so it's pretty bizarre and it's infuriating. But let's give you more details on her situation, okay? So now the minor is almost 17 years old, okay? So she's 16-year-old, almost 17. She is a minor, but she also doesn't have any parents. So she can't really get parental consent without parents. Now, she does live with a guardian, and apparently that guardian is fine with whatever decision that this minor, this teenager, comes up with. Oh, if you want to raise a baby, great. If you want to have an abortion, you should have an abortion. That's on you. Go ahead and do whatever. So that's going to factor in later as well. But more information about her. Now, she's also pursuing a GED with involvement in a program designed to assist young women who have experienced trauma in their lives by providing educational support and counseling. So obviously somebody who comes from, again, no parents, you've got some issues with trauma, doesn't exactly look like a great time to have a child come into the mix. Now, the minor also experienced new trauma or renewed trauma, according to the article, where a friend of hers had passed away shortly before she decided to seek termination of her pregnancy. She also, of course, doesn't have a job. She's a minor. She's currently trying to get an education, and then had noted, and this is all in a letter to the judges, that the father would not be able to assist her in paying for or raising said child. Okay, so now this sounds like, again, a really terrible situation, a bad situation, which would be compounded, made worse, if she were to then be forced to birth and raise a baby. I mean, again, you already take a situation that's bad enough, and then you add a baby to the mix. Well, that's not good either. Now, of course, you could say, look, I get it, terrible situation. Well, why doesn't she just give it up for adoption? Or, foster, give it to a foster family. Okay. Now, look, the problem with that is there's already a bunch of children stuck into that massively underfunded and broken system. So it's not exactly the best solution here. Not to mention, she's still a young person. She's still essentially a child, teenager, right? So that's going to have massive impacts on her body. There's physical, mental trauma. And, that's, again, that's, and say the physical trauma, add on the mental trauma of having a child that you really don't want. This is a situation that's happening in Florida. And again, you also have to add in the cost. It's not exactly cheap to be, to give birth in this country. It costs thousands and thousands of dollars to have a baby in this country. And so, no, this is a terrible situation for this young adult. And this teenager, soon to be young adult. And she's saying, look, I know the situation. I know the stakes. I know how much of a negative impact this is going to have. I'm mature enough to understand all of this. So please let me do what I believe is best for me in this situation. And Florida says, no, I'm not. No, we're going to let crusty politicians make that decision for you. It's disgusting. But understand, this is the another horror of what it's like to live in post-Roe America, where women are no longer, and pregnant people are no longer treated as human beings, able to make their own decisions. And there are apparently very little understanding for these kinds of circumstances and situations. All right. Anyway, that's all I got for you. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Thank you, F-Bombs, for the rating party of 17. Really appreciate that. Let's see. Let's go to YouTube here. Do some, what is it? Super chats here. That's it. All right. Gabby Mathis, thank you very much for the very kind $10. I really, really appreciate it. Hey, if you want to help with the show, please, do super chats, or you can sub on Twitch. You can do all that stuff, or give us stars on Facebook, or become a subscriber on Facebook. Or if you want to just, avoid giving all those douchebags money, Zuckerberg and Bezos, we have a Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf as well. So you can support me there. All these different ways to help out the show. Your choice. It's called freedom and choice. And so please do that. Or, you don't even have to support it all. Just like and share the stream. All right. That said, let's do a raid here over on Twitch. Let's see who we wish to raid today. You know what? Let's raid Francesca Fiorentini for the Twitch Ration Room. So everybody else on Facebook, YouTube, thank you. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See you all later. Have a great night.
Sexual anarchy.
Up yours, woke moralism. We'll see who cancels who.
Fired! Fired!
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's some whores in this house.
Bitch, move it along.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.
Disappointed.